Welcome back, Brenda.
Welcome back.
Hi, Michelle. Good. How you doing? Take care.
We have time. If everyone could just take a moment, I know you probably know each other, and I'm the one who doesn't know everyone, but if you could just turn around and say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You sit there and it makes me feel like this is my spot.
Yeah, everyone usually has their spot. And when someone comes early and takes someone else's spot, there it is. You've got to say, oh, excuse me, that's someone else's spot.
That's smart. His wife tells him where his spot is. Very smart husband. Very smart. I just want to say you'd be a little bit at pains to make an argument that you have to have a spot when there's so many spots available. But, you know, right.
Or we could ask the ever non-answered question, why does no one sit in the front row?
Oh, in our temple, I think it's because it hurts your neck.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right. Anonymous.
Oh.
And if you could find a place to come and sit in the front row right in front of
The tallest.
Yeah, I got stuck sitting in the front row once and missed the entire movie.
Right.
Yeah. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's so wonderful to see everyone and to meet new people tonight. I just want to begin by thinking about some of the things that happened this week that you don't want to hold on to. There's a lot of things that go on over the course of a week, and we don't have to keep them with us. So think of something that you want to get rid of and breathe it out, leave it on the floor. We'll vacuum after. Now think of something wonderful that happened this week and how much joy it brought you. And try to hold on to that feeling of joy throughout Shabbat. Shabbat is when we step back from the painting of our lives. If we're painting all the time, as an artist, we can't see what's going on in the canvas. We just see small pieces, right? But when we step back, we can see the entire canvas in its entirety. And we can see that we're creating a work of art. We can see that even though there are blacks and grays in certain points, that there are colorful areas as well. The Native Americans used to do this in weaving rugs. They would weave whatever color they had into a rug, and at the end, they would stand back and say, "This represents my life, and I give it to you." So, we each are creating paintings for each other and for ourselves and the future. So it's important that we remember to use all the colors that are in the palette, not just the darks. We begin on page 128 with the singing of Shabbat Hamlaka.
Achama merosha ilanod nistalka, bo uvenet se likrat Shabbat Hamalka, hinei yoredet hakadosha haberucha, vehi malachim tzeva shalom umenucha, boi boi Hamalka, boi boi akala, shalom. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest. Draw near, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace also to you, you angels of peace.
We turn back in our prayer books to page 120, and we invite up Bev and Mark to light the candles and to say the Kiddush.
I never do things the way that they're supposed to be done, so we're going to do a different type of reading today. We're going to look at the bottom of page 121, and I'd like you to read along with me, please.
Help me to perfect my ways of loving and caring. Inspire me to make myself whole, so that I can honor your name and create a world of justice and peace.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'chalik shel Shabbat.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'chalik shel Shabbat.
All right, so I guess I had to pick something different, huh? She did it, I have to do it. So let's just go on 122 to the bottom, not the total bottom, but near the bottom, where it says, "The heaven and the earth were finished
In all their array.
On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done."
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reishi ki hu yom tehillah v'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mizrayim kivanu v'harta v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodeshecha v'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Beautiful job.
Great job, Andy.
So glad you're here.
We are too. Shabbat shalom. Because we always do the same thing.
That's right.
We turn to page 127. And we read together on the top of the page. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. We turn together to page 144 for the Hatzi Kaddish as we rise. Page 144.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'yamad yivrach yotei v'yamich machutei b'chayechon u'yomechon u'chayedecho ben Yisrael b'agala ובזמן קריב וימרו יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולם מהמיה יתברך וישתבח יתפאר ודרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה תמירם בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. The bottom of page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or shall we cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we cross back, my brother, my sister, or shall we cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ma'ari.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah mitzvot hukim umishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu v'kulmeinu nasiach b'chukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה. אהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם
Please be seated.
I'm sorry, everybody. I know you love that key, but it's got to go up. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובמלאכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו עשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
So, in the Torah, the root for morim, parents, and the root, morim is teachers, the root for parents is horim, all come together, and the main root means to instruct. Here in the V'ahavta, we learn that there are certain things that we must teach our children to do. But as we grow up, we may feel that these are not the most important things. So what I want to ask tonight is that you think of something that your parents taught you, whether they did it by modeling it, whether they did it because you hear their voice in your ears telling you to do it over and over again, or it was something that they learned from their generations. And I want to ask, is there anyone who wants to share those words or that thing that's still ringing in their ears?
I'm not trying. My father taught us, if you're fortunate enough to go out to eat, you're fortunate enough to tip well. Never tip less than 20%. And we were not wealthy. We grew up lower middle class. But that lesson, I can hear him saying it at the Torresdale Diner.
I love it.
And it stuck. It stuck. You're fortunate enough to go out to supper. You're fortunate enough to tip well. Because someone else's livelihood depends on that.
Thank you.
My parents always taught us that you just have to appreciate everything in life. And the smallest thing, and I don't mean big things, because we didn't have much money, just simple basic things. And finish everything on your plate. Because children starving, I'm kidding.
See, I got the opposite message from my parents. I guess it must be different in Boston, but we always had to leave one bite on our plate with the knife and the fork turned over. I don't know if it was a polite thing, but apparently in my house there weren't people starving in other parts of the world. I don't know. Yeah, Ellen.
My parents both taught my brothers and I how important family was, and that it was so important that no matter where anybody was living or where they were at the time, that you made time for your family and you spent time with your family because of how important that they should be. And I'm very blessed with an amazing relationship with my brothers and my nieces and nephews and my children, and I think I've carried on that, and I've instilled that in my children as well.
And you know that in your great-great-grandchildren's life, there will be that message as well. Anyone else want to share something? Yeah,
Treat others as you wish to be treated.
100%.
Treat others well as you.
Yep, treat others as you want to be treated.
My father didn't speak much because my stepfather, my second husband, said my mother always had a microphone. And true. And my mother, who translated from 7 languages, almost invented Twitter. And she said this is the most important thing. I have not yet engraved her shelf because I don't know when she was born. Brendela, do what's good for you. She said,
Brendela.
My father was a auto mechanic. We weren't very wealthy. We would always drive used cars, and you could turn them over every couple of months and sell them. You know, you get one that was beat up, fix it, turn around and sell it, and that's how we made extra money. But he taught me, first of all, how to do all that stuff myself. So to me, a car wasn't even broken in until I had at least 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And back then, that was a big deal. But also, he taught everybody who does something for me. How we, somebody comes to the house and fixes the plumbing. Appreciate them, let them know that you cared about what they did and they weren't just the hired help.
I think the plumber is one of the most important people in your lives.
I think the cashier at the supermarket is the most important person in my life. One more.
Commitments. If you make a promise, you keep it and you follow through.
So all the values and everything that everyone has just shared, they all come under the heading of Judaism, whether we know it or not. We can make a statement of all of that. I think my father always wanted sons instead of 2 daughters because he taught us to repair the car. He taught us how to mow the lawn. He taught us tennis and baseball. He taught us how to punch someone really hard so that there's a potential that we could break their nose. He taught us to not let anyone touch our bodies. And from the time we were 16, he would give us new t-shirts every couple months that said, "Do not touch, this is my body." And the back was, "Love her dad, who can punch." He sent us off to college with a whole bunch of these t-shirts, and we couldn't figure out why no one wanted to date us, but I guess it worked. So, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the number of wonderful memories that I have from my parents. And one of the things that they did that we carry on, we never got a gift for Hanukkah. Never. My parents would not allow it. It's a Hallmark holiday. Okay, so a little bit of light lasted. We'll give you some oil. You deal with that. But what they did do is bring us to the table every night and have us pick out a charity. Something that was important to us, and that would be our gift every single night to make a donation to another charity. And we did the same thing with my kids who thought, "Oh my God, why? Why do they have to be like this? All the other kids are getting gifts and we're making donations." But when it came time for my kids to become B'nai Mitzvah, they specifically wrote, "In lieu of gifts, please make a donation to this organization. Please make a donation to this organization. We have more than we can need, and there are so many people suffering." And I was proud. And they were right. So, take some time to think about the lessons that you've passed on, the lessons that you've learned from generation to generation, and how they make up who you are. We're going to continue on page 158 with the singing of Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha, Ahenim Adonai, Mi chamocha, Nedar b'kodesh, Nora, Tehilot, Osei, Fene, Nora, Tehilot, Osei, Fene, Mi chamocha, Ahelim Adonai, Mi chamocha, Nedar b'kodesh.
On page 161, we find the words to the Hashkivenu. As I've said before, it was meant to be said before one went to sleep at night. The rabbis believed that death was 1/60th of, that sleep was 1/60th of death, and so they asked that everyone please say this prayer so that their souls could be taken and held in God's arm overnight. And in the morning, there's a companion prayer. Thank you, God, for restoring my soul to me. So, of course, people weren't doing it at home, and they added it in to our prayer service. So I want you to take a moment on 161 and read silently either one of the 2 paragraphs. We continue with Vishamru on page 162.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני לימודי ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We turn to page 164 as we rise for the tefillah.
Adonai, Sabbatai Titachu V'Hagi Tehillatech. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, Ha'imor HaNara, Elyon, Gomel HaSedim Tovim, Mekonei HaKol, Bezoher HaSteavot Be'imahot, Mevi Gula Divnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Michayeh Kol atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatah. Kel Chayim V'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol V'Rachamim Rabim, Zamech Noflim V'Elfei Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Mishenei Afar, Michamo Chaval Givurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Beimit Umechayeh, Umatzmiot Yeshua, V'neman Atan HaChayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Michayeh HaKol. Atah kadosh shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. On page 173, we're going to 173. We're going to read this antiphonally. So we're going to begin with Cantor and Cantor side, and then we're going to continue with the second paragraph, and we're going to go back and forth and think about the words as we read them.
Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans.
Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred.
Wake us, O God, and shake us, from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears.
Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality.
Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred into action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
We turn to page 175. Ratzei Adonai Eloheinu b'yamcha Yisrael. Together you are with us in our prayer, our doubt, and our love.
In our longing to feel your presence and do your will.
You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odecha levadecha be'ira na'avod. We join together in Shalom Rav on the top of page 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'klanit u'b'hosha b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
We take moments of silent prayer.
Oseh shalom mimramav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, yimru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We turn to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah, as we rise and turn to page 364.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Udevar Adonai mishutato. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Lecha Adonai Hagedora, Hagevura, Hatiferet, Hanetzach v'Hahod. Ki hod b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki hod b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai lamalacha, ani naseh leho lerosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omin. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omin. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Ve'ha'ernehu b'toratecha v'dabek beinu mitzvotecha. Ve'hachir levaveinu le'ahava u'yirah et shemecha. Eloi nevosh le'olam va'im. Eloi nevosh le'olam va'im.
Please be seated. So I feel blessed to be up here with Simon for many different reasons. First of all, I adore you.
Oh, stop.
And second of all, when you were looking at colleges a couple years ago, yeah, I don't know how I got stuck at home, but Gabby, John, and my husband Shane went on a fabulous road trip with my daughter Bailey and Simon, and I would get texts from every port, and my daughter would take pictures of she and her new mom, and she made me feel very sad and very jealous. So I am so glad that you guys got to know each other, and yeah, and to hear you sing is just a blessing. So I want to introduce the Torah portion. We begin the third parsha in Deuteronomy, which is called Akev. Tonight I'll be reading from page 1379. In Akev, Moses reminds the people that, again, if they follow the laws and commandments that God has set forth, they will live well, they will be loved by God, and they will be blessed by God. God says that God will bless their animals and their land, and they will be fruitful and multiply, for they are God's people. Again, this is just another reminder as the people are with Moses and they're getting ready to go into the land. So, you want me to call you up with your Hebrew name?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to call him up with his Hebrew name?
Do you want me to, Simon?
If you want. I take no offense.
All right. Yamod, Yamod, Yamod Shimon, Shimon Rachmiel ben Gabriel v'Yochanan, Ha'aliyah Chazak, Chazak.
See, now that was much better than what I could do on any day.
I have to think about how to do it when it's not a bar mitzvah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, ve'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. V'haya ekev temishmarun et mishpatechem ha'ele haya v'mishmaratam v'asitam otam v'shamar Adonai Elohecha lo et habrit ha'et ha'chesed asher nishbat la'avotav ve'ahavta bracha uvarecha bracha pri betecha upri ha'adamecha dagnecha yitar shar vitarecha sigar elohav va'asrita tzonecha al ha'adamah asher nishba la'avoteinu latet kol brit patyeh mim kol ha'amim lo yeh ben akara velo akara midei v'mitzrayim v'haraim asher yadata lo yismar mehem v'armechem Eshet Adonai Elochav natan laha lo tachom einecha aleichem velo ta'adeh et Elohechem ki mikdosh haya lecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So the English basically said that God is going to give blessings to the people, the brit that God made with their ancestors, that their land will be blessed, that their vineyards will be blessed, that their relationships will be blessed if they remember to love God. It's interesting to think of a conditional relationship with God. If we follow God's commandments, then God will love us. And if we don't, then we get the other side of the coin. We're doomed. And God wants to impress upon us before we move into the land and we get comfortable and we think that we created everything we have, we need to remember that it was God who brought us to this point. So I can ask you to please rise.
V'zot ha'Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael afi Adonai b'yad Moshe. V'zot ha'Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine.
Traditionally, when the Torah is open, we offer several blessings, one of which is the Mishaberach, the prayer for healing, for not only people who are injured, but for people who are affected in mind, spirit, body, and soul. We also say a prayer at this time for anyone who has recovered from a long surgery or has recovered from an illness or has come back safely from a long trip. There are so many different things that we thank God for when the Torah is open before us. So we turn to page 370 and read the names of those that we're thinking of in our community. Rabbi Robert Orak, Nancy Baskin, Martha Brandwein, Miriam Solans, Ellen High, Nancy Keller Coffey, Marcy Seligman Waite, Robert Summers, Louisa Corallo, Jessica Knight, Niles Chopper, Alice Chopper, Judith Landau, Pam Friedman, Eric Blumenfeld, Debbie Levin, Larry Boxman, Robert Goldman, Lee Klatsky Alexander, Jean O'Connor, and Mira Taxa. If there's anyone else who would like to add a name, please do so as my eyes meet yours.
Isabel Marcel.
Thank you.
Kate, Dan, and Ben Rubin.
Tthank you.
Mayor Marshall.
Thank you.
Barry Gilchrist.
Thank you.
Rob Weiss. Christy Roberts.
Joanne Clark.
Asher Clissold.
And for those who are watching on Livestream, we sing this together with you. Page 370.
Mishabeirach avotenu b'kor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishabeirach imotenu b'kor habracha le'avotenu. Those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Before we return the Torah to the Ark, Harvard University did a study about 14 years ago. They had 3 groups of people. One who were told that people are praying for them and for them to get well. One who were told that maybe people were praying, but probably not. And the third who weren't told anything. The people who were told that people were praying for them became 52% better than any other group. And so I believe that prayer works, but only if we use it. I don't know what's answering me when I pray. Nothing's answering me back, thank God, or I'd be in the loony bin. But when I say these names and think of these people and put all my energy into the healing, I believe it makes a difference, and I believe that we as a community make a difference when we do the same. So, we turn to page 374 to return the Torah to the Ark.
Natati lachem dorati al ta'azor. It's Chaim amachazikima v'toh mechera me'ushar derachera darchei noah v'chol netivotecha shalom. Ashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Hadei shamenu kekedem Hadei shamenu kekedem.
Please be seated. Everyone's already seated. Thank you.
They're very smart.
Yeah. The people at home didn't get up. They're still seated. Yeah, and drinking their wine. My son and I scour the Wall Street Journal daily, not for financial tips, but we found a very interesting column. It's on the most expensive houses for sale around the world. We love to look at it and love to see what's included in these ridiculous prices. Last week, there was a house in Connecticut that was listed for $37 million. It was a grand old dame. She had beautiful bones, but she was definitely in a state of repair. She needed to have someone come in and love her back to life. So, we found out that for $37 million, you could buy a house with 17 bathrooms. That means everyone could have 2 bathrooms of their own, 2 dining rooms, one small and one large, 2 kitchens, an indoor-outdoor pool and luxurious gardens, 3 tennis courts, and a flower maze. Here comes the interesting part. The house had 4 bedrooms. My son and I stopped and started laughing hysterically. We thought, okay, why 17 bathrooms for 4 people? 5 people at the most. What are they doing in there? Were there bathrooms at one time that they changed into different things? And who was going to spend $75 million on a house with 4 bedrooms? It was absurd. And we couldn't stop laughing for the rest of the day. We saw pictures. The house was built in the Gilded Age, strong wood with flourishes, a marble double staircase that came together, high ceilings. But we couldn't get over the fact that someone was buying 4 bedrooms. The Wall Street Journal was advertising this house, which meant that someone was going to buy it, whether it was for 75 or 73 or 72. But someone was going to buy this piece of property. And most likely they were going to take it down and rebuild it with 8 bedrooms and 17 bathrooms. Maybe they'd put a spa and a place where you could see movies. The Wall Street Journal needed to know that they would have to lower their price. And I find it ridiculous that real estate is going for that much when it's a place that needs love. It should be given away for free because it's going to cost 3 times as much to repair it. I find it interesting that synagogues and churches can't get funding, especially not $75 million worth. But people will spend millions and millions and $1 million on a house that maybe they use twice a year. And they could have 4 of them scattered all over the world. Our Torah portion Ekev begins with a warning against moments like this. Verse 13, and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered. Beware, lest your heart grow haughty, and you forget God, Adonai, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. From Devarim 8, verses 13 to 14. Moses warns that prosperity is or could fall into a dangerous thing. This is something that we never hear from our leaders in any sort of era. If you've got a politician, they love to offer voters the promise of prosperity as a reward for a vote. But Moses was not a political leader. Moses was Israel's passionate defense attorney, pleading time and time again for God's mercy. As such, he was a lover of one thing more than another, and that was the truth. The thing about the truth, as we all know, is that it can be frightening, insulting, and infuriating, while remaining true nonetheless. Moses knows that his days are numbered. There is no time to be kind and understanding. He's not going to be that wonderful, warm, fuzzy therapist. He proceeds, therefore, to tell Israel that the one thing that they want so badly, prosperity, could put in danger their relationship with God. Deuteronomy 8:14 makes it clear that wealth has side effects. Prosperous people can start to believe their own press, and once they do, the gratitude they once offered freely to God slows to a trickle and then dries up completely. Such a people start to say, you see all this? You see this $37 million mansion with 4 bedrooms? I built this. I lived in it. I did all of it. Me. Look at me, right here. Yep, I did it by myself. I worked my way up from the stock floor to all the way up to head of the company. When you do something like this, it's a symptom of a terrible spiritual ailment called liabilities. Rabbeinu Batya explains how prosperity can be spiritually harmful, and your heart will be arrogant, and you will forget God. Pride is the principal cause of forgetting essentials. Due to the abundance of affluence, peace, tranquility, etc., a person's heart becomes haughty, smug, and his evil urge finds it easy to provoke him to follow the dictates of his heart without restraint. When that happens, heaven's concern becomes marginally for him. That's not to say that wealth always leads to the loss of religion. In fact, in many cases, there have been many wonderful people who have made huge donations. They all have feet of clay. Steinhardt has brought so many people to Israel, and thank God for that. I've done so many weddings from Birthright, and I want to do more. There are people who give to help start certain programs and to help those outside of the synagogue that need help. Indeed, every religious institution and charity depends on these people, those who are blessed with both prosperity and a charitable heart. This is also not to say that more religion is also a better thing. Religion without the controls of rods and reason and independent thought quickly becomes spiritually radioactive. Excessive blind faith can cause people to give up and to let God, to believe that the most important thing in life is unquestioning belief in one's daily life. Blind faith, we know, leads to suffering. It's not a coincidence that the most religious states are also the poorest, the sickest, the most obese, the most violent, the least hospitable to minorities of any kind. Nor is it a coincidence that the most secular states are also, in some ways, the most prosperous. The goal of life from a Jewish point of view is to balance loving kindness of religious faith with the practical benefits of reason, education, science, and wealth. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah taught the idea in this way: when there's no bread, there's no Torah. Where there's no Torah, there's no bread. That is, without the practical skills and knowledge that allow one to make money, one will not have free time to study Torah. However, without the Torah's rules, inspiration, and holiness, all the money in the world will be pointless. We try to balance most things in life, especially since coming out of COVID. We've all been a little bit wobbly, trying to find our balancing space again. Some of us feel like we're going over a very narrow bridge. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, that Cantor Clissold will sing later. But we know that balance is the most important thing in our lives. So what are some of the things that you need to think about before the high holidays that need more balance in your life? Mark has some announcements for us tonight.
I do.
Oh, good.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Mark Ronsfelder. I'm one of the portfolio trustees on the board, and on behalf of Monmouth Reformed Temple, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us tonight. I've got a few announcements for you this evening. Jewish calendars for the new year 5784 are now available in the office. Stop by during office hours to pick up your copy. I believe during the summer that's Monday through Wednesday. Save the date for our next beach service. That's next Friday at 7 p.m. at 7 President's Oceanfront Park in Long Branch. Preceding the service at 6 p.m., there will be a bring your own dinner, but no alcohol, please. Contributions to Tzedakah for the month of July will benefit Shine a Light. The Shine a Light initiative does just that, shines a light by installing lights on bicycles that area day workers and others rely on as their principal mode of transportation. Shine a Light was started by Dean Ross, thank you Dean, and has grown with MRT volunteers together with members of Red Bank Policemen's Benevolent Association. MRT continues to engage together in meaningful ways. We would love for more people to invest in our mission of connecting as a Jewish community. We welcome your investment of time as well as donations to help us grow. For information on joining our MRT family or making a donation, please contact Jordana in our office or visit our website, mammothreformtemple.org. Rabbi Edelman and Cantor Clissold are always available as well. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I just want to say that I've been here for a month, so I don't know much of anything, except I know that this congregation is incredible. I know that there are so many people who volunteer for so many different things, and there are people I see every day because they're running in to do this, to volunteer for this, and running in to do this, to volunteer for this. And they're riding their bike, and it's wonderful. I've never seen a place where people have a passion for study. And the adult learning wants to get out the best programs. There's a wonderful Torah study, not this Shabbat, not next Shabbat, but the one following, where we read, a different book. Daniel, we just read the book of Daniel. I kept thinking of Elton John the whole time. I couldn't help it. But there were so many fascinating things that I'd never noticed before in the book of Daniel. And in reading it, I realized, oh, this is totally Christological. This is not our book, it's theirs. And they can have it. But I've learned so much from studying with people and meeting members of different committees with people who are so passionate about so many different things. They're passionate about this synagogue and being part of this synagogue. They're passionate, and I know why, about Cantor Clissold. Because we all love her. She's a holy person. She's a tzaddik, and there are only 36 righteous people in the world at a time. Oh, there you got one. I swear too much, so I can't be included. But I just want to say that I feel so incredibly blessed that I ended up here. And I want to spend time with each and every one of you. If you're free, call. Let's go out for lunch. Let's go sit at the beach. Let's go spend time together. I'm available. I want to hear your stories. That's the most important thing to me. I want to know you and who you are and why you belong here and why you find your passion here and why you find your place here. And we talked before about what our parents taught us. I want to hear that too. I have kids that are going off to college. They need better advice than what I could give them. So I need your help in that. So thank you for embracing me this past month. And I pray that I don't screw up in the next two. We rise for Aleinu on page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tei gedula leotzer breishi, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Noteh Shamayim B'Yotzei Haaretz, ושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ ניתחת אין עוד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Page 592. As I've told you before, and you'll hear again, this is one of my favorite poems. It's called Epitaph, and it was written by Mary Malloy for her husband, the only poem she ever wrote. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sound, so look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot let me live in your mind, at least let me live in your eyes. You can love me best by letting bodies touch bodies and by letting go of children that need to be free. You see, love never dies. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, please give me away. We remember in the period of Shloshim, Daryl A. Yablik, Norma Cohn, Alan Ballestros, Ethel Greenwald. In the period of Shiva, those who've died in the past 7 days, Phil Auerbach. And the art site, the anniversary of those who we loved and died at the season in years past, Esther Baker, Bradley Blonder, Ann Collins, Morris Cowan, Castriel Finkel, Edith Fleischer, Abby Gable, Joseph Stanley Goldberg, William Hilson, Annette Katz, Liz Kingston, Rhoda Leisner, Irving Mandelbaum, Leonard Peltzman, Ralph Rapsardi, Marvin Rosenberg, Lieutenant Howard John Schnabalk, Irving Schulman, Morris Schwartz, Michael Sims, Gussie Stroller, and Sheila Diane Weschnack. If there's anyone else who's remembering someone tonight, please state their name aloud.
It might be Shloshi in my children's community. Julia Diaco.
Thank you so much. We rise together as a community because no one should have to say Kaddish by themselves, and to remember all of those who have no one to remember them by. When my daughter first could walk, she was at services every Friday night, just being passed around from person to person to person. Everyone learned how to change her diaper. And she quickly figured out that when we said the yard site list, people would rise and they looked sad. And so at about age 3, she started walking from person who is standing to person who is standing, take their hand and give it a kiss. And she did this every single Shabbat. I don't know how she knew, but somehow she knew. And that's what we do when we stand together. We give each other a kiss. Page 598. Together, Yikadal v'Yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Bialma divrach hirte biamlich malchute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye tukol Beit Yisrael. Bagalav izman kariv yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav.
Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
V'yimru amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Please be seated. Our closing song is on page 643, and it is one of my favorites. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav was a Hasidic master, the most depressed Hasidic master that ever lived. It's true. He would go out into the forest in search of God each and every day, and he would say, God, where are you? Why did you show yourself to my father and my grandfather, but not to me? And while he was out there, he wrote some magnificent poetry and stories. He could never find God. And when he died, there was a chair that he used to sit in Jerusalem at the Bratslaver synagogue. They decided to carve it into small pieces and to give everyone a piece, and they would meet in 5 years in the United States and put the chair back together again. 5 years later, they met, and they were only missing 2 pieces. They have never replaced Reb Nachman of Bratslav. He's still the head of the Bratslavers. And this is one of his songs.
Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od. Gesher tzar me'od, kol ha'olam kulo. Gesher tzar me'od, gesher tzar me'od.
The entire world is but a narrow bridge. The most important thing is not to be afraid. We joined together in making motzi. I apologize for the cutting. They left me in charge of the knife, so it's a little crock-eyed.
You didn't take the oils course, I see.
No.
Rabbi, before we do the motzi, I personally know I speak for many people who feel so fortunate and blessed that you're here with us. And I'm at the top of the ladder with that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Would you like a piece of it?
Good.
Pass around the book? Thank you. Thank you for being on the beam.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
pleasure. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Yeah.